what now 3 years I think we've been at this, and our records are pretty good up to this point, but this is an absolutely monumental card. UFC 300. I'm pumped to talk about this one. We've been hyping it up for a while. Everybody has. We got to see if it lives up to the hype. A lot of people seem to be disappointed with that main event, considering all the star power in the UFC right now and the names that were floating around at the time. It was almost like Alex Pereira and Jamahal Hill was like a step down from people what people were expecting. But just knowing these two guys and the fights that they've had in the past in the UFC, I'm super pumped for that one. I think it lives up. I think it's going to live up to the hype. On paper, it does. I think there's potential for a lot of finishes, tons of action. What do you think, Tom? Do you think it's going to live up to the hype?
I mean, I think this card is the most thoroughly stacked card. And when the card is so thoroughly filled with champions, previous champions, big names, ranked fighters, contenders, potential future champions, I think it's hard to put a fight as the main event that's going to stand above all of those head and shoulders in a way that main events tend to do. So I think because of that, it just ends up being always going to have been lackluster. There's really, aside from Conor McGregor or John Jones headlining this fight, I just think there's very, very, very few people who could actually headline this level of a stacked card. So with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to you because it's getting a little noisy in my house.
I will argue in favor of Alex Pereira's star power, and one of the reasons why I was pumped for this one. Every UFC fan knows Shama. Everything about Alex Pereira. He's an enigma. Now he's learning to speak English. He's going into 7-Eleven buying Zins with American teenagers. The guy's a character, but also he's like the king of Madison Square Garden here in New York. I try to tell a lot of my Nick fan friends that, Alex Pereira is the king of Madison Square Garden. He's won 2 belts in 2 different divisions there, headlined 2 of the highest grossing events in Madison Square Garden. He's the king of the garden at this point. The star power is definitely there. Jamahal Hill always puts on a show. So I'm pumped for this one, but I'm also pumped for every single fight on this card, starting all the way at the bottom. I mean, we could jump right into it. We don't even have to say prelim notables, right? Because we're going to go with every single fight on this card. Roll from bottom to top, basically. Before we do that, just want to say, please like, comment, and subscribe. Jump in the chat with us. Let us know what you think of our picks. Let us know what you think about the hype around UFC 300. Does it live up to the hype? Is it better than UFC 100 and 200? I think so. Way more star power now. Follow us on Twitter. Our names are underneath our faces and scrolling down at the bottom on the ticker below. What else am I missing, Tom? Anything? Spotify. The man. You could listen to us on Spotify as well and check out the audio there. All right, do you want to hit the prelim notables?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right.
Oh, 1 second, wrong button.
All good.
All right.
It's time!
And we'll roll a thing for prelim notables, even though all of them are notable.
All right. Well, like we always say, what's kicking? We're back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. We're starting with Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. And this is an interesting one. It's Deiveson Figueiredo's second fight at bantamweight, right? Second fight there, or at least second fight since relinquishing that title back and forth, battle that he had with Brandon Moreno for a long time. Second fight there. So won his last one. Cody Garbrandt, honestly looking to have a little bit of a resurgence. Looked pretty good in his last fight, but not a caliber of the fighter that Deiveson Figueiredo is. I think Deiveson Figueiredo looked really good at bantamweight. I think he's gonna hit Cody Garbrandt in the face a couple times, and Cody Garbrandt, being who he is at this point in his career, won't be able to withstand that for more than a couple of rounds. I'm going with the Deiveson Figueiredo round 2 TKO. Expecting a lot of leg kicks out of Deiveson Figueiredo, chopping him up. giving Cody a lot to think about. Super creative guy. Cody Garbrandt, could have had a night. There was, a night once upon a time when Cody Garbrandt was absolutely invincible, and that time is behind him. But yeah, I think, Deiveson Figueiredo is probably going to start this one off hot, finishing Cody Garbrandt in the second round. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Cody Garbrandt is probably to be finished at this point in his career. He's got a chin that really can't withstand too many powerful punches. So Deiveson Figueiredo, I think, is probably faster at this point. Maybe not. Even at 36, I'll still kind of put him either at equal or a little bit faster than Cody Garbrandt. But I think he just has a durability level that's going to allow him to get the victory fairly easy in this fight. So yeah, I'm going Deiveson Figueiredo, and I imagine majority of the public will too. You can see minus 300 favorite here. So, I'm thinking it's either going to be a banger in which Cody Garbrandt's his chin holds up, or we're going to see a knockout. So I'm going with David Figueiredo to get it done.
Yeah. Strong breeze at one point could put out Cody Garbrandt. He looked a little bit better last time around, but I don't think he's going to look that great on Saturday. What do we got next? Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. What do you think about this one, Tom?
So this is an interesting one. I like that Jim Miller is getting his opportunity to fight at UFC 100, 200, and 300. But at 40 years old, I know Bobby Green is 37. And I think you could even argue that Bobby Green has been in just as many, if not more, wars than Jim Miller has. I think Jim Miller has plenty. I think he either has the record for most amount of cage time, octagon time. He may have knockout records, finish records, decision records. He's got some sort of all-time amount of record of, some statistical category. I don't remember which one. And I think a lot of that's a product of him just being in there. That's that just points at how good his ability to, the best ability is availability. And for, 15 years now, Jim Miller has been able to be available for the UFC and go out there and perform. That being said, I think Bobby Green is going to go out there and finish Jim Miller. Bobby Green is fast. Bobby Green has, actually, he hasn't shown traditional durability in the way that maybe he had in the past. He got knocked out by Jalin Turner, but that Jalin Turner, who is another guy we'll talk about on this card. I think Bobby Green at this point in career, how long ago? 4 months ago was that Jalin Turner knockout. It does make me consider what I said in a little bit of a different light. But I still think, with the ability to knock out Grant Dawson, submitted Tony Ferguson, but that's, it's not crazy of note to me at this point with the Tony Ferguson that we see coming into these matchups. Then again, you still got Jim Miller finishing guys. He lost to Alexander Hernandez, beat Donald Cerrone, Nicholas Mata. I don't think Jim Miller's going to finish Bobby Green. I think Bobby Green is far too good at head movement in an awkward style. I think Jim's going to be able to touch him up. And I think same thing back. Bobby Green would be able to land on Jim Miller. Jim Miller's hittable for sure. I think both these guys are pretty durable. But with that being said, I just think, even though it's only 3 years, there's a slight, I just feel maybe misplaced youth advantage on Bobby Green. I just think I don't see him being able to be submitted by Jim Miller at this point. I feel like it's going to be Bobby Green. I think he's a little bit faster. He's got that head movement that I think will make him hard to hit. And it's 3 rounds. Both of these guys have shown good 3-round durability. I think Bobby Green just uses his weapons a little bit more. I think you're going to see more diverse, more of a creative style of striker out of Bobby Green. That's going to frustrate Jim Miller. I think it's probably going to be a 3-round decision now that I'm thinking about these guys, realizing that one's 37 and one's 40 and the amount of fights that they've been in. I think it's going to be a banger. Both of these guys go right at each other, but I'm going to lead with Bobby Green to get it done.
Yeah, I could see why you would say that. And I would normally go with Bobby Green, except that Jim Miller has won at UFC 100. He has a win at UFC 200. And I think he's going to get a win at UFC 300 as well. You saw Bobby Green take a lot of brain trauma in his last fight against Jalin Green. It wasn't just a normal stoppage. It was an unrelenting beatdown from Jalin Turner, it went on for too long. I forget who the ref was. I think it was Mark Goddard, maybe. Just an absolute clobbering of an asleep Bobby Green by Jalin Turner. It was horrible. So,
Very Hatley.
oh, okay. Yeah, horrible fight. I mean, a horrible stoppage. Way too late. So, and Jim Miller also has shown no fear against anyone. Like, he's not afraid to get up in Bobby Green's face, throw a lot of loopy stuff. Bobby Green likes lateral movement when his back is against the cage, and when Jim Miller gets people against the cage, he likes to shoot takedowns and then fake takedowns and throw overhands. Not like Khabib level overhands or anything, but it's something he does well. And then he does chain wrestle. He could do it all when it comes to the ground game and the jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I think Jim Miller is going to find a way to get it done over Bobby Green this week. I think he's going to touch him up with his hands a little bit, surprise Bobby Green early in the first round, and then in the second round, have Bobby thinking about a lot of different stuff, maybe touch him up a little bit more, and then it's going to go to the ground. And I think you see a Jim Miller submission, probably by some sort of choke, maybe something cool. I mean, it would be cool if he – and it would be too fairy tale if he did something really fancy like a twister, but I think he'll pull off like a guillotine or something against Bobby Green. So I'm going with Jim Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. And the more you try to kind of paint that picture, I saw Jim Miller potentially, piecing up Bobby Green and hurting him, especially after the beatdown that Jalin Turner had. But that being said, 4 months out the game, maybe a little bit ahead, recovery there. I would have liked to see it definitely more time off for Bobby Green. But you go and you look back at the people who've knocked him out. They have been huge power punchers, and that's not what I'm expecting from Jim Miller at this point. So if Bobby Green has, I think it really hinges on Bobby Green's ability to withstand punches at this point. Really, this fight hinges on chin for Bobby Green, because if his chin, either his head movement keeps him out of the way of Bobby Green of Jim Miller's punches, so that he can't accumulate that damage, or he gets hit, but he just keeps moving forward. I think that means it's going to be a win for Bobby Green. If that chin does waver, after whether it's, accumulation damage over the course of a career, or from being so close to that Jalin Turner knockout and accumulation of damage in that singular fight. If his chin isn't there, I'm full steam on Jim Miller, but I'm going to bet with the chin, and that's where we differ. So makes sense. But
we won't know about that chin until that fight starts. Next up, we got Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. And I like Marina Rodriguez. I have a hard time saying the soft, like Brazilian R. I like her boxing quite a bit. She's got really good head movement, a stiff jab. She's got a nice leg kick. Her stand-up game is pretty well together. And then, she's got good defensive jiu-jitsu. But Jessica Andrade, we know who she is. She's a little pit bull. And sure, she's only 2-3 over her last 5. But you look at the caliber of competition there. Although now that I'm looking at it again, it's, she's gotten finished quite a bit. Marina, on the other hand, she got finished by Amanda Lemos, lost to Virna Jandiroba. I think this is actually this is like really good matchmaking. I think this probably will end in a finish. I think you're going to see Jessica Andrade back in old form. The way that she used to be, putting people's lights out, putting pressure on people, backing them down against the cage, and then just unleashing a flurry. I think you may see that against Marina Rodriguez this weekend. But, Marina Rodriguez is a little bit taller, has the longer reach, the longer legs, and if she uses her boxing well, with that jab and everything, she puts herself in a really good spot against the tinier opponent. But we have seen Jessica Andrade go with like that Mike Tyson style, right? Where she's like charging in with body hooks and then throwing stuff up top. I think we're going to see that out of Jessica Andrade this weekend. Maybe like round 2, she's going to come out and throw a real flurry to start the fight and find a way to finish Marina Rodriguez. So I'm going with Jessica Andrade. What do you think, Tom? Can't hear you. You got to unmute.
Embarrassing. Yeah, I'm going to follow you. I'm going with Jessica Andrade, and reason being is I was looking back at some of the fights that she had recently, and I'm realizing that Jessica Andrade, is a totally different fighter at 115 than she is at 125 pounds, and a totally different types of careers there. I think at 115 she has a lot more bulk to her. She has a lot more power to her punches, and in a matchup here of 2 mainly strikers, Muay Thai being Marina Rodriguez and Vale Tudo, and honestly, jiu-jitsu, and the strong type of like Brazilian wrestling just from Jessica Andrade, just that like kind of almost like a brawler style. At 115 pounds, I'm going to be going with Jessica Andrade, like you said. I think she's just got a stronger base at that weight. She's a little bit younger. I think she's got a stronger grappling game if it goes there. And I think when it comes to striking, in this particular case, I think being 5'1" and being a shorter opponent, she's going to be able to get in there, get it on the inside, and really unleash some of those powerful punches on Marina Rodriguez, and kind of show off that pit bull form that she's not able to do against really strong grapplers, especially taller ones. So I think this is going to be Jessica Andrade near even. Yeah, I'll take her. And looking at Tapology, you got 72% picking Andrade with us, 62% of those by knockout. So not too many people thinking this one's going to go by the way of submission, either decision or knockout, and I'm in the Andrade camp.
Yeah, I like Andrade quite a bit here. Like you said, I mean, everything. I can't even follow that up about that fight. Next up, Jalin Turner versus Renato Moicano. And it's tough. It's tough to pick against Renato. I mean, I love the guy. I want him to win because I want there to be a viral post-fight interview where, he talks about his grandfather having another kid or something, and he loves USA. I love Renato Moicano. He's cool, but I think Jalin Turner is going to get the better of him this week. The way to beat Jalin Turner is to either be a Dan Hooker and just no fear get up in Jalin Turner's face and throw absolute shots at him, or to be a Mateusz Gamrot and just try to chain wrestle him and grab his legs and hang on and constantly look for angles. And Renato Moicano has really good jiu-jitsu, but he's not the ADCC level of jiu-jitsu that Mateusz Gamrot is. And so I think you're going to see a fight this week where Jalin Turner is really just popping off that jab at Renato Moicano. Renato's trying to close the distance. He's eating a lot of those. Maybe you see a little bit of a grappling exchange out of Renato, but ultimately I think you're going to see Jalin Turner get the better of every single striking exchange and be able to keep Renato away from his legs. And, he's really good at managing distance because he's so long and lanky. He's a massive lightweight at 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. Renato Moicano does have a similar reach, but, it's the legs that really make it up for Jalin Turner. He's got a nasty push kick. For all those reasons, I'm going to go with Jalin Turner to piece up Renato and defend the takedown. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I'm right there with you again. I think Jalin Turner is going to be able to use that length, especially that leg reach, and keep Renato Moicano at a distance. I don't think, and again, you're right. You look back at the people who were able to beat Jalin Turner, that's Mateusz Gamrot and Dan Hooker. And both of those guys are unafraid to get inside and throw, shots from in close. And in Mateusz's case, has a strong ground game that he can rely on with like a wrestling base, a control base. Renato Moicano's grappling style is a lot more submission based, in the jiu-jitsu, where he's maybe willing to accept a less dominant position on the bottom and then go for a submission and throw it up from his back. Whereas I think Jalin Turner, being so much bigger than him, does have some limbs that are exposed, but I do also think he is very snake-like, very tarantula-like. I think his nickname is good, that he's just long and able to get out of there and then land big hammer fists. If you can't hold his arms or his limbs close to you, I think that's strong, but that's not Moicano's style. He's not overwhelming you with positional control and pinning things down. He's just trying to throw up this, and then maybe the guy will slip out of it and he'll slip, and then he'll throw up another aggressive submission, and maybe he'll slip out of it, maybe he'll catch it. But it's not very strong and controlled and able to hold those long limbs. And especially when you think about Jalin Turner, muscle fibers, and then a longer muscle, it's going to be a stronger muscle. He's a strong dude. So trying to control that is really hard. And then when he gets the torque behind those hammer fists that he punishes you with after he gets out of those positions, I think that's what's going to do a lot of the damage to Renato Moicano on the ground. He's a guy who's susceptible to wearing that damage, so I don't think it's going to be a good visual for the judges if it does go those 3 rounds. So I think everything in this fight is leading me to believe Jalin Turner is either going to finish it or land enough damage either on the scorecards or on the metrics or just on the face of Renato Moicano visually to get the win. So full steam ahead on the tarantula train, unfortunately, but still love Money Moicano.
Yeah, I would like to see him win, though. Imagine that post-fight interview at UFC 300. be a
Of
moment.
course.
So next up, we got Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. And we got to see Diego Lopes live in his UFC debut last year in New Jersey. By the way, they're coming back to New Jersey, Tom, despite the fact that you have relocated. I don't live in New Jersey. Don't try to figure out where I live. Yeah, I'm going with the people at Tapology on this one because when we saw Diego Lopes, that was against Movsar Evloev, and that was a great showing for Diego Lopes. He shows actual promise and serious UFC potential, maybe like championship potential down the road as a bantamweight. I really like the guy. Fighting style, he's got really strong hands. He's not afraid of anybody. He can close the distance, throws great kicks, and his grappling is superior. And to pretty much everybody in the division, it looks like. I like the guy. I like his haircut. I like his personality. I like a lot of the promos they've cut for him. I think Sodiq Yusuff is really good, but Diego Lopes, he didn't look great in his last fight against Edson Barboza. He didn't look great against Arnold Allen when he lost a couple fights ago. And I think Diego Lopes beats both of those guys pretty handedly. We'll see what he has to do against Sodiq. Sodiq is creative, but I think if it's a grappling situation, Diego Lopes beats him. If it's striking, Diego Lopes is going to find a way to close the distance. He's a little bit more. He cuts his opponents up. I like the guy. You go back and watch pre-UFC fights, super creative, a lot of fun. So I think he's going to finish Sodiq Yusuff. I don't even know how, but I think the finish is going to come eventually at some point in this fight. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with you again. Diego Lopes, I think he's just on a different trajectory right now. Sodiq Yusuff, he did have a period of time where he was getting, and maybe he still is, a little bit famous on the internet for his breakdown, his uninformed breakdowns, just going through and kind of like cracking jokes and making kind of sarcastic remarks about different guys. And I thought they were hilarious. I'm not sure if he's still doing it. This is actually the first time I thought about that in a little while. I haven't seen any highlights or clips of it circulating around. So maybe he's doing it, maybe he's not. But that I thought that was really interesting. But Diego Lopes is just kind of another breed at this point. 29 years old, and only the only loss he has, recently and in the UFC is that first fight in against Movsar Evloev on short notice. I think it was like a week notice, went in there and really gave Movsar a run for his money. Since then, he's went out and he finished Gavin Tucker by arm triangle submission, and go out there and knock out Pat Sabatini fairly easily. It seems like this is getting easier and easier as the competition is getting harder. We're seeing better performances from Diego Lopes, and like you said, he's got strong kicks. He's got a really great striking game that we weren't expecting to see when he came in against Movsar Evloev. And then on the ground was where Movsar really shines in his strong type of grappling that we talked about in the last fight. Diego Lopes was able to use a strong grip, like a grappling style, to get out and hold Movsar in some positions, but also it really creative incorporation of jiu-jitsu also allowed Diego Lopes to have some submission attempts and have a lot of success in that fight. And I think against Sodiq Yusuff, he just possesses better traits in almost every single area. I think his striking, he's faster, he hits harder. I think he has better head movement. He has great kicks. And none of this to take away from Sodiq Yusuff. It's just Diego Lopes is just a little bit better than Sodiq Yusuff in every area, and including being a year younger, a couple inches taller, a little bit longer of a reach. He got a little bit better jiu-jitsu, a little bit better submissions, a little bit better defense, a little bit better grappling. In every single area, Diego Lopes shines in this fight. So I'm going with him, and the fact that he's only minus 140. Maybe I'll look stupid later, and in which case we could clip this and put it out to the world and what have you. But I'm going with Diego Lopes. Minus 140 seems like a really significant line there. I'm wondering if they know something that we don't, but I'm just seeing Diego Lopes, really, really doing well in this fight and showcasing on UFC 300.
Yeah, I think that's a fair line. I do think it's fair because of Sadiq's experience and Diego Lopes' inexperience in the UFC. And, the fact that Sodiq Yusuff is pretty apt and he's pretty able. Could pull out a decision win, but like you said, and I'm right there with you. More than likely, Diego Lopes wins this fight, and I think it's going to be a finish. Next up, we got Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. This is an interesting one. Obviously, Kayla Harrison making her UFC debut from the PFL. cutting weight, cutting quite a bit of weight for this fight because the UFC does not have a 155 division for women, right? That's what Kayla Harrison fought at PFL. 16
Exactly.
and a lot of her competition over there was not up to even like a 42-year-old Holly Holm. It's Holly Holm is still out there getting it done, getting wins. She's she's I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you would count that no contest. Well, now that it's they threw it out because Mayra Buena Silva was on roids, but she is technically 3-2 over her last 5. But I mean, you could look at that one how you want to because it was a crazy choke out. But anyways, I don't think that Kayla Harrison is really up to UFC, or anyone that she's fought is up to UFC standard. We'll see if she's up to UFC standard on Saturday. And Holly Holm has had a history of derailing a lot of hype trains in the past. Like, look at what she did to Ronda Rousey. And now that's going back like a decade, of course. But I'm just, it is a history of what she's done to people in the past. I think she either did it to Aspen Ladd or Aspen Ladd couldn't make weight to go fight her. One of the two. But she's derailed a lot of hype trains in her career. She's still out there getting dubs at plus 340. I think that's actually like a pretty high value dog for Holly Holm, who has pretty good takedown defense in the past. I don't think you're going to see Kayla Harrison choke her out against the cage like Mayra Buena Silva. Sure, Kayla Harrison's huge and she's strong and everything, but it's really like predicated on that weight cut and how that's going to affect her cardio, how it's going to affect her chin, how she's been doing it. It's been known for quite some time that she's going to be coming to the UFC and she was going to have to cut quite a bit of weight. But I don't know how that weight cut's going to affect her. I think you may see a situation where she gets tired, and then by like midway through round 2, Holly Holm is defending those takedowns and then starts piecing her up. I think this line is it should be tighter. Because at -4 something, I'm not even like tempted to bet on Kayla Harrison. I'm like more leaning towards Holly Holm simply because of the line. I think that plus 320 is like that's high value for Holly Holm, who could go out there and get a W against Kayla Harrison. So I'm gonna roll with Holly Holm, for betting purposes mainly. If you're gonna bet responsibly, but I like that line quite a bit for Holly Holm. I think she has a really good chance. She has more than a puncher's chance. She's got a kicker's chance. She could put Kayla Harrison's lights out with a kick. So I'm going with Holly Holm. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I love it. I love that you came around to that because that's exactly what I was thinking. Initially, I'm thinking Kayla Harrison is going to be bigger. She has all the success. She has the hype train, even though she did have that loss, so significantly less of a hype train now. She lost to Larissa Pacheco by decision, but again, came back, fought Aspen Ladd, somebody who had been getting finished and a lot of losses inside of the UFC, beats her by decision in the PFL. So I think for Holly Holm, after those two, showings by Kayla Harrison, and then you add in the fact that, she came in at 155 a lot of the times, latest weight 150, now having to drop down to is at 135 pounds. So now that's another 15 pounds she has to cut, 20 from what's normal, probably 25 or 30 what she walks around at, if not more. So Kayla Harrison definitely more. I don't even know what I'm saying. So that's a big weight cut, like you said. She may not have the strength that she's hoping to have, but on top of it, Holly Holm has very, very good takedown defense. I've seen many fights that Holly Holm is in that she spends up against the cage, defending or pressing takedowns. So I think it's actually a tough matchup for Kayla Harrison to come on into, especially a very game 42-year-old Holly Holm. I think she has great takedown defense, and against a tired and a drained Kayla Harrison, I think Kayla's going to have a more difficult time finding those takedowns. And remember, Holly Holm was a professional boxer. So, go out there and, power's the last thing to go. Not that she has a ton of power. She's fought to a lot of decisions inside the UFC. So she's got that experience under her belt. And Kayla Harrison, not that great at a stand-up, actually teetering on piss fucking poor. So with that being said, I think there's a very, very real possibility that Holly Holm was able to defend takedowns for the first round and land some, boxing, land some knees, punish Kayla Harrison to the body, get her tired and even more tired than she was expecting to be after that big weight cut. If this gets out of the first round, I am like almost entirely on Holly Holm the whole way, like 9-1. And I think with such a disparity between round 1 and round 2, How you could value Holly Holm at plus 340 in any case with all these negatives slanted toward Kayla Harrison. Give me the preacher's daughter for the money. If this was 50-50, I would probably maybe also take Holly Holm. I don't know. It's just hard to say. Not great performances from Kayla Harrison as of late, and then having to cut an additional 15 pounds. Not great. Not great. Taking Aspen Ladd to a decision. Not great. Not great. Losing outside of the UFC. Not great. Not great. So give me the preacher's daughter.
Yeah. It's crazy because I feel like we've seen this fight before where someone's really good at judo and can't strike and fights Holly Holm, and Holly Holm's just older, but she's still got the same skill set.
She's got great fight IQ, dude, and it's not just like IQ of how to win a fight. It's IQ of like how do I win this fight? Like I like attribute it a lot to like something I hear a lot is don't play golf or don't play golf swing, play golf. You're not sitting there the entire time trying to get the perfect swing. You ultimately want to get the ball in the hole. So keep that as your main goal. The swing helps you do that, but play golf. Don't play golf swing. And I think Holly Holm, she fights. She doesn't play fight technique or perfect fight IQ. I think she's able to adjust to that game plan on the fly and do what it needs to do. Oh, this girl's trying to grapple me. Well, I'm going to keep her up against the cage, land some shots in close. It's going to be nothing. And then she knows how to win a UFC fight with the way that UFC judges judge. So again, that fight IQ, the ability to adapt a game plan on the fly like that to how and what's going on, I really like that for Holly Holm.
Yeah, me too. Next up, we got Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling, and I feel like this line doesn't make a lot of sense. Calvin Kattar with a knee injury against Arnold Allen. Aljamain Sterling potentially up in the running for like one of the best bantamweights ever. One of, not the. I mean, I still look back on that first Petr Yan fight as like kind of a disgrace, but since then he kind of turned around his career and. Smart move for him, moving up to 145. Now he clears the way for his buddy Merab to potentially like take the throne down there. Anyways, human backpack, Calvin Kattar, good defensive grappling, not great, not good enough to defend Aljamain Sterling climbing on his back and choking him out. And I think his stand-up game is really great. I think if it stays on the feet, Calvin Kattar is going to find ways to piece up Aljo. But Aljo really grew as the champion at 135. He really developed immensely. He fought Henry Cejudo. Against Sean, obviously knocked out. But really solid champ down there. And I think he's just going to use the same skill set, same game plan. I was just listening to Joe Rogan. They had Matt Serra on from Serra Longo, who trains Aljamain. And it sounds like they have a great game plan figured out for how to beat Calvin Kattar. I think you're going to see Aljamain Sterling climb on his back like he always does and find a way to choke him out. And so for that reason, I think Aljamain Sterling is potentially like one of the biggest locks of the card here. I'm curious to see what you think, though.
So awkward when you said this line is a little messed up or you commented on the line. I thought it was because you were going to be all on Calvin Kattar because I have a totally different argument, and it is totally for Calvin Kattar, and I'll tell you why. I think Aljamain Sterling is coming off that knockout of from Sean O'Malley 7 months ago. Now, Sean O'Malley has deadly precision, but Calvin Kattar, he's really accurate too. He's got great boxing, a great jab, great movement, great footwork, and you're right. He doesn't have fantastic grappling defense, but he also has an extra, 10 pounds on him. He's a much bigger guy than Aljo may potentially be used to. Now, Aljo's a big guy too, right? And he's always probably grappling a weight class or two above. But I just think that competition time is a lot different than, at training time, in class time. And even though, he has great, backpack ability, I think there is still a strong chance that he is able to find his way to Calvin Kattar's back. But in the same way that he wasn't able to find it on Sean O'Malley, I think Calvin Kattar has potential to piece up Aljamain Sterling. And, when Aljo gets pieced up, he's far less he's far less effective. I mean, you look at those first 3 rounds against Petr Yan versus the last 2. The first 3, in 2 of those 3 rounds, half the round he spent on Petr Yan's back. So you would think Petr Yan going into 4 and 5 would be much more tired. Yet he's still there. He still's got the gas tank. He's still got the better boxing in the stand-up. And he was able to, I'm really upset that Keith dropped off because I thought I had him in stunned silence. But nevertheless, Petr Yan was still there, still able to keep firing back and won rounds 4 and 5, in my opinion, and really made that a super duper close fight. So with that being said, I think Calvin Kattar has the potential to, keep Aljamain Sterling off of him for the first round to potentially into the third. And I know it's only a 3-round fight here, so that does change things. But I think if Calvin Kattar can keep 2 rounds with Aljamain Sterling off his back, he's going to win that fight. It's not a 5-rounder, so that does present a different challenge. I think if this was a 5-round fight, I'd be even more on Calvin Kattar. But being a 3-rounder, I think Calvin Kattar just has to avoid Aljamain Sterling on his back for 2 rounds, and he's going to win the stand-up. I think he's going to win the stand-up. I don't doubt that. It's just if he can keep Aljamain Sterling off his back for 2 rounds. I think he's gonna. That's basically what I'm betting on. I think the size advantage, the timeout, I think he's gonna be dying to get back in there. Aljo's gonna be the smaller guy here, so I think he won't be able to use his muscle to move guys around in the way he did at 35. So I think because of that, I'm actually going to be going Calvin Kattar here, and I like him for the plus money. So give me Calvin.
Yeah, I respect the pick. I just think Aljo, he walks around at like 185 when he was fighting at 135.
I get it, but yeah, he's going to come in and he's going to have a better weight cut, which means he's going to have a better gas tank. It's not really going to matter in a 3-round fight. I think the thing that's going to matter far more is the fact that the guy he's grappling has an extra 10 pounds. And now also, instead of Aljo walking around at 85 and being big for the weight class, now he's going to be fighting guys who walk around at 85, 90, 95, So maybe Calvin doesn't walk around at 95, but he's 5'11", cuts down to 155. I think he walks around at 80, 85. That's probably normal. So he's going to be against somebody who's now his size, where he's not going to have that strength as like kind of a backup to go to. I know he's got a lot of technique, but I just think it makes getting takedowns a little bit harder. So I think if Calvin can avoid those, because we both agree he's going to win the stand-up, right? So it's just how long can this fight be standing?
We'll see. We'll see how long it takes for Aljo to get a takedown. All right, next up, we've got Jiří Procházka versus Alexander Rakić to close out the prelims, which is crazy to say. This is closing out the prelims, this fight. Both of these guys coming off a loss. Alexander Rakić, he had that funky leg injury against Jan Blachowicz the last time around. And Jiří Procházka, now admitting that maybe it was an early stoppage against Alex Pereira, probably could have kept fighting on. But he was technically, on paper, finished, dropped by that nasty and close left hook. Alexander Rakić has a really complete skill set. He's got good stand-up. He's got a good ground game. The guy looks like a Greek god. But I think Jiří Procházka, who looks more like a Tekken character or like a Skyrim character, he's better when it comes to the stand-up. He's stronger. He's tougher. He's more durable. I don't think that Alex Pereira fight should have been stopped, me personally. And I think, it's a valid stoppage by the ref. But if it was me, I wouldn't have stopped it. And I think for his career going forward, it could have. It's a blemish. But I don't think that you really hold that against him, considering who he fought and how it ended. And Alexander Rakić is not the same guy as Alex Pereira when it comes to the stand-up. He's more of a decision guy, and I think Jiří Procházka is going to find a way to finish Alexander Rakić. He's going to make it a dirty, sloppy fight. He's going to be throwing elbows, lots of weird, creative stuff that makes Alexander Rakić think twice about closing the distance against Jiří Procházka. And at this weight class, if you're not willing to engage, the other guy's going to get in your face and throw something that puts your lights out, like a spinning elbow or just some sort of uppercut, like one of those weird lunging uppercuts that Jiří Procházka throws. So I think you're going to see Jiří Procházka win this fight. Maybe Alexander Rakić wins some of the grappling exchanges, but I think Jiří Procházka is going to find a way to really punish Alexander Rakić on his feet. Nasty leg kicks, nasty hooks, a lot of body work. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Alexander Rakić, you look at him and he's a guy who can be knocked out. And it doesn't take super duper high level of competition well, I don't want to say that. He's a guy who can be knocked out. He was finished by Jan Blachowicz, but that was largely due to that leg injury. His only other loss coming via split decision to Volkan Oezdemir. So I in part spoke at a turn there, but I think you look at Jiří Procházka and his fight versus Volkan Oezdemir, which came, about between 6 months of Alexander Rakic's. You see him go out there and actually finish the guy and not lose a split decision. I think Alexander Rakić is a guy who doesn't have as much power behind his punches, though Jiří Procházka is hittable, and we can't forget about that. He just has that dog inside of him to speak, so to speak. I think he, so to speak, I think he, is a guy who's going to be able to take some punches and, keep it moving. Even if the ref allows him to recover, I think it's even going to be more swayed in his position in his favor. It's only a 3-round fight. So with that being said, I think Jiří Procházka is probably going to land the more powerful punches. Alexander Rakić is probably going to land more of a volume of punches, but I think he's probably going to end up showing that wear and tear more Rakić is. I think Jiří Procházka just got that dog in him, and I think he's going to show it. I think the odds that he ends up winning by finish are much higher. I think he's plus money right now, plus 110. I'm going with Jiří. I like Jiří. I don't think Alexander Rakić has anywhere near the power that Alex Pereira has. And I think Jiří, given enough time, is going to find a way to put you away. And I think Rakić just doesn't have that same level of finisher in him. So going with Jiří Procházka, going to find a way to finish it somewhere over those 3 rounds.
Hey, he just keeps beating you down the whole course of the fight. It's unrelentless. And look at that. The people at Tapology are right there with us. 78% of the vote on Procházka, and the majority of that coming in on knockout TKO. Right there with you, Tapology. All right, we got the main card. Opening the main card to some controversy.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well. To some controversy is Bo Nickal against Cody Brundage. Bo Nickal on star trajectory right now, fighting Cody Brundage, who is known to fold under pressure in the past. Yeah, Bo Nickal is going to go out there and get the victory one way or another. No other way to say it. Submission, knockout, first round. If you're going to bet this one, maybe he's a parlay piece for you if you're going to do the whole card, like a big round robin or something. Or if you want to go with Bo Nickal by first round something.
First round finish.
Yeah, first round finish, whether it be submission or TKO. Either one. I'm personally leaning more towards TKO. Gives a lot of people a lot to think about. With the takedowns, always opens his fights with a weird head kick. Yeah, I think he's going to just ground and pound Cody Brundage, open up the main card with a bang. It's going to be in no time at all. Cody Brundage may put up a little bit of a fight to start. He's no, what was that guy's, Val Woodburn?
Right.
Yeah, the last time around. He's no Val Woodburn. You're not going to see him stumbling and bumbling after one head kick, but there is going to be a situation where, actually, yeah, you know what? I'm going Bo Nickal by sub because I think he's going to get frustrated with Cody Brundage being a little bit better on his feet than Val Woodburn and the guys that he's fought in the past. Who was it before that? Jamie Pickett. And he's going to go for the takedown and then submit Cody Brundage. So, yeah, I like Bo Nickal first round sub, which is probably also minus 1,000. Mm-hmm. So not worth it, but what do you think, Tom?
I mean, yeah, I don't think this fight is bettable with the odds the way they are. Bo Nickal's going to win somewhere in the first round. May knock a guy out, just to show that he has the ability to do that. And Val Woodburn wasn't a fluke against a UFC caliber talent because Val Woodburn came back in and just didn't look motivated. So just 2 bad showings by Val Woodburn. I don't know if he's going to get a third shot. So it's hard to say he's UFC level competition when you don't go in there and get a win. And especially when one of them is on short notice. That being said, Cody Brundage, not a huge UFC level talent, but he does have a couple wins, one of them by disqualification 6 months ago, knockout by a slam over Zach Reese. I would say a step up in competition. But I mean, I think maybe Jamie Pickett might be better than Cody Brundage. It's at least close. So maybe not so much a step in competition. There's not much to say. Bo Nickal by however the hell he wants.
Yeah, you're looking at a star. Yeah, you're looking at a star in the making. They're building him big time. This is my main event, personally. I mean, I'm going to say that about every fight, but like now we're really getting into the meat and potatoes of this one. Charles Oliveira versus Armen Tsarukyan. I'm so excited for this one. I think Charles Oliveira is going to beat the snot out of Armen Sterling on the feet. Armen's going to shoot a takedown. Charles is going to be firing back off of his back with elbows, hammer fists, and he's going to have Armen in a world where he's experienced, but not to the level of Charles Oliveira, where you get your arm out of one thing and all of a sudden your leg's in something and your neck's getting tied up here, and then there's a hammer fist coming your way. And we saw Beneil Dariush try to contend with that 2 fights ago for Charles. I'm sorry, in Charles's last fight, where Charles was a man on fire. You know, now the videos are coming out of him in the locker room crying beforehand and throwing those nasty head kicks to finish Beneil in the first round by TKO. He holds the submission record. While Armen is good in like so many different areas, he's got great stand-up. He's really good with the grappling. Charles Oliveira, I think, is going to submit him because I think Armen Tsarukyan is going to get bold with his wrestling and he's going to get frustrated with the stand-up. And Charles is going to be clinching him and he's going to be throwing those tight hooks and he's going to open the fight with a crazy scissor kick. And it's going to be very frustrating for Armen because Charles Oliveira is a hard guy to figure out on the feet. And we see him getting better with his striking too. You know, that head kick against Beneil to finish it where like it looked like it was going low. Beneil puts his hands down and clock, it's right over. I think he's going to – it's the evolution of Charles at this point. He's no longer that quitter. He's just getting better and better. And that fight against Islam, you know, it was a bad one for him. He was in enemy territory. He always goes in enemy territory and gets screwed around with. You know, we saw it happen to him in Arizona as well with Justin. And I really don't think he's a guy that makes excuses. And I think that we saw this motivated Charles against Justin, and I think we saw it against Beneil, and I think it's going to it's carrying on. And I think he's going to find a way to finish Armen, mostly because Armen's going to get cocky and he's going to go to the ground with Charles, and Charles is going to tie something up. And I don't like Armen really that much, and I don't want to see him get hurt. But maybe a situation where like he doesn't tap to a choke and then he's snoozing. I wouldn't mind seeing that. And I want to see Charles Oliveira, you know, like something crazy, dude. Give us something good again. Every fight is a banger. I can't wait. What do you think, Tom?
I mean, yeah, what's left to be said? I think Armen Tsarukyan is going to have the advantage when it comes to position grappling, and that's really it. He's going to have youth on his side, so he's got everything to prove, especially against Charles Oliveira. And Charles Oliveira has been a guy who, as of late, even if he does falter at the very, very tippy top of the division, tippy top of the sport, you may feed him somebody else and he'll go out there and annihilate him. So he's showing that he remains atop the division. You could take his belt away. He'll come out there that much more motivated, submitted by Islam Makhachev, but came back, knocked out Beneil Dariush, something that, Armen Tsarukyan also has done and, recently. So basically the fighting of the two guys who can knock out Beneil Dariush most recently. That being said, I think Charles Oliveira is a guy who's going to go out there and get it done. I think he's going to land a couple really, really hard shots to the chin and to the face of Armen Tsarukyan, potentially to the body. Armen's going to go for the takedown, and I don't think he's going to have the ability to one, easily take down Charles Oliveira, and two, control him. You look at him versus Mateusz Gamrot, another guy who had really good grappling of his own right, and that went to a unanimous decision back and forth. And I think we're going to see the same thing here. Armen Tsarukyan, a guy that doesn't necessarily excel in scrambles, and that's something that Charles Oliveira really is known for, finding and locking up positions in scrambles. even more so when those scrambles are started because he had knocked you down. And I think Arman Tsarukyan and Gamrot, a lot of those scrambles just came from positional back and forth of jiu-jitsu and wrestling playing. So with that being said, I think it's going to be a lot of I think it's going to be a rude awakening for Arman Tsarukyan to have to go to those scrambles after being knocked out. Damir Ismagulov, he was able to, squeak out a win against. That was another tight fight in which, a guy had strong stand-up and strong ground game, and it gives Arman Tsarukyan a real tough time. Yo Kunsela, when there's a hole in the game, Arman can exploit it, and Badil Dariush was able to knock him out too. Yeah, I'm going Charles Oliveira. I know that he has extremely hard hands. Arman Tsarukyan is there to be hit, and his fallback plan is to shoot a takedown, in which case it's also an area where Charles Oliveira shines. So kind of a scary 1-2 from Charles Oliveira. Only a 3-round fight, so you don't have to worry anything about gassing. And I think Charles is hungry, and he's very, very motivated. And I think he's going to go out there and quiet this young contender. And I have 185 plus 185. Give me Charles Du Bronx.
Yeah, he's been setting up nasty head kicks in his last couple of fights with Beneil. Well, I mean, especially with Beneil. But yeah, I think you expect to see a lot of nasty looking head kicks. And again, with the groundwork, just the evolution of Charles. Go back and watch the Beneil fight if you haven't recently, because every time Beneil tries to engage, there's something coming at him. There's a hammer fist. There's an up kick every single time. And it's too much to think about for Armen, who's too youthful and too inexperienced in this fight. Sorry, I just wanted to cap it off with that. Next up, we got Justin Gaethje against Max Holloway. And
sorry, I was just counting all of the win streak that Charles Oliveira was on, and it was like a 12-fight win streak and like an 11-fight finish streak, just something absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's when he set the submission record. So now we got Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, and a lot of people are counting Max Holloway out because of the jump up in weight and the fact that he wasn't super successful, not as successful at 155 as he has at 145. But now he's actually had time to prepare, to put on the weight. It is a 5-round fight, being that it's for the BMF championship belt. But I think the longer that this fight goes on, the more it benefits Max. But I think you're going to see Justin Gaethje closing the distance. He's getting creative too. That head kick he set up against Dustin Poirier was incredible. I don't think he's going to do something like that again. I think he's going to rely more on his hands against a boxing guy like Max Holloway, who's really good at closing the distance. And, it's going to be textbook Justin Gaethje. He's going to be thumping the leg kicks. Those punches are going to be flying. And Max Holloway, his creativity also benefits him really well. Like guys that do the same thing over and over again, Justin Gaethje picks up on those patterns and tends to exploit them. Like when he saw that Michael Chandler kept ducking under a lot of his punches and then came up with an uppercut and actually dropped Michael Chandler in that exchange. But Max Holloway is extremely intelligent when it comes to his striking. He won't show you the same thing twice, really. Yeah, I think if it's a finish, Justin Gaethje finishes. I mean, he wins, and I think if it goes to decision, then Max Holloway wins this one. And I think that you're going to see Justin Gaethje find a way to finish Max Holloway in like rounds 2, 3, 4, potentially. So I'm going to go with Justin Gaethje in this one. Chin's great. Obviously, he's got a great chin. It's stood the test of time. It's tough. This is a tough one to pick. If you're into the dog money, go with Max Holloway, but I think that Justin Gaethje is going to find a way to get this one done. What do you think, Tom? Hold on.
Let's go with Max Holloway here. Yeah, let's go, dude. It's blessed season. Justin Gaethje is going to come out the gate and he's going to be throwing hard, and it's a 5-round fight. And I think Justin Gaethje really shines in 3-rounders. You look back at his fight, Dustin Poirier, he was able to put Dustin Poirier away. I think it was in the 2nd round. put him away with a head kick. And like you said, he was able to exploit something that Dustin Poirier did. I don't think you're going to find something like that in Max Holloway. I think he's so clean and crisp with his boxing. He always manages to stay safe. Even when he does get hit, in that first Volkanovski fight, it was a lot of back and forth exchanges. But I think even in the last 4 years, we've seen Max Holloway, I was thinking like, oh, Max is in some bangers and he gets hit and he throws. But, you look at the fight against Chan Sung Jung where he took very little damage. Arnold Allen, he didn't take too much damage. Alexander Volkanovski, he lost in a unanimous decision in which he did take, some damage in that one. But Yair Rodriguez, very little damage. Calvin Kattar, very little damage. So I think Max Holloway is a guy that maybe in our heads we think takes more damage than he does. And also you got to remember, it's a guy who doesn't spar because he knows how to fight. He's had a long career, and somehow he always ends up being the younger guy. He's 3 years younger than Justin Gaethje coming into this fight. He's got a wealth of experience inside of the UFC, a wealth of experience fighting. He's got a really, really strong boxing game, right? He'll put in those low kicks. The difference here, I think, is Justin Gaethje on the feet is number one, his power, and the amount of times he's going to crack Max Holloway. Is Max's chin going to continue to hold up? At this point, I'm not going to put my vote, especially for plus money, or when I'm going the opposite direction of plus money or for minus money, depending on which perspective you're looking at it from. I'm not going to put that bet and go bet on Justin Gaethje and say that, yeah, something's going to happen here that hasn't happened yet. Until it happens, I'm still going to be riding with Max Holloway's chin, especially when you look at the fact that the most he's taking damage is actually in these competitions, in these bouts. It's not outside of it. He's not, going through a lot of sparring sessions and taking a lot of shots to the head, which I don't know if you can say the same about Justin Gaethje, especially when you listen to both of those guys talk. There's a very clear difference in, the way they communicate. Not saying that that's punch drunk or have anything to do with their sparring cycles, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I just think Justin Gaethje is a guy who's taken more damage over the accumulation of his career than Max Holloway has. Max Holloway is a little bit younger. He's going to have extra weight to him this time. And don't point to the Khabib fight as an example of what he looked like at 55, because he looked like a fat Holloway who had to put on some bulk in order to get in there on short notice. So I don't like that. I think he's been training for this for some time now. I think he's going to have proper weight on. I think the weight cut's going to be easy for him by comparison. I think he's going to go in there. He's going to have a full gas tank round 4 and 5. I fully expect to be Max Holloway rounds. So he's only got to take really one of the first 3. And I expect him to be landing the same amount, if not, 1.25, 1.5 times more than Justin Gaethje is. And if he's able to get out of there and even those shots that do land on Max Holloway, there's a lot of rolling with, he's not getting landed clean on. And I think the big problem with Alex Volkanovski and why he was able to have a lot of success against guys taller than him is because he's punching up, and he's punching up at places that are usually, angles that you don't have to contend with. For Max Holloway here, you got to remember, now he's fighting a guy who's 5'11", the same height as him, right? He doesn't have to worry about those punches coming up. I think you're going to see a lot of success from Max Holloway in those striking exchanges. I think as long as he is kind of cognizant of Justin Gaethje's leg kicks and his ability to land them even from in close, if Max Holloway keeps distance from Justin Gaethje and just boxes him up, doesn't allow those leg kicks to accumulate, I don't think this is going to happen on the ground. So I think this is a stand-up fight. And I refuse to pick against Max Holloway in a stand-up fight unless it's against Volkanovski. And that's because there's a proven track record of success for Alex Volkanovski. And I attribute that a lot to that awkward angle. So not the case in this fight. Max Holloway has a good chin until otherwise proven. He's got good head movement. He has less accumulation of damage. He's got good speed. He's the younger guy. He's got, if you want to talk about pedigree, he's got a better pedigree of wins and success. Yeah, Justin Gaethje's only chance here, I think, is to knock out Max Holloway, something that hasn't happened. Maybe it's going to happen, but I'm not going to contend on, something to happen for the first time as where I'm putting my money, especially when what I think is going to happen is at plus money. So give me Max Holloway plus 175.
Yeah, fair enough. I think there is a situation, like a potential scenario in this fight where Justin Gaethje is like chasing Max Holloway and like trying to throw looping things, and Max Holloway's kind of like thumping a little jab off his face. So I totally get where you're coming from. I'm torn on this one. I may not touch it, with my bankroll, but if I do, I will be betting responsibly. Next up, we got Weili Zhang versus Xiaonan, and a lot of people are upset with this fight being on this card. I think it's a genius marketing move from the UFC. You put 2 Chinese female, one being a champion, the other one being one of the number one contenders. You just open yourself up to so many different markets with this fight. You have like now a whole region of the world you just got yourself into buying pay-per-views to watch UFC 300. And, and then also women that are into the UFC maybe a little bit more interested in watching this one, or like the girls that are over at the fight parties in their boyfriend's houses watching this one might maybe a little bit more intrigued about this fight. It just appeals to different audiences, right? So, and also Weili Zhang, I love her as a fighter, and Yan Xiaonan is really coming up too. She's had some really great performances in her last two fights, but Weili Zhang, I think, is going to come out with the W here. She's a minus 420 Blaze It favorite. And I think for very good reason. You look at what she's done to some of her competition in the past, like the last Joanna fight, or even the one before that, the way that she made Joanna look in that fight. But the spinning back fist against Joanna and then submitting Carla Esparza, going into her element and taking her out. And then Amanda Lemos, just, that decision fight, just looking really good against Amanda Lemos. And Yan Xiaonan, that knockout over Jessica Andrade was beautiful. And then the Mackenzie Dern fight was good, contesting with Mackenzie Dern's grappling. I think these two women, though, they're going to keep it standing. They're going to stay on their feet. And Weili Zhang ultimately is going to land more damage. Now, Yan Xiaonan is a great counter striker, but Weili Zhang is another fighter that doesn't really switch. I mean, she doesn't really show you the same thing twice. She's very creative in there. And she attacks damage very well. When she cuts up her opponents, she usually targets, she's just very intelligent as a fighter. She's good in all aspects. Yeah, it's a challenge for Yan Xiaonan. And I think that Weili Zhang is a very justified minus 420 favorite, and is going to get the W against Yan Xiaonan. But it's going to be a great fight. These two women are going to give us fireworks. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think it's Weili Zhang all day. I think you look at the losses where to Rose Namajunas via head kick, that was just a good trickery. And then a lackluster Rose Namajunas follow-up fight, in which case I think that she feels that she, could have won that fight, should have won that fight. And then we've seen a very different Weili Zhang ever since then, going out there much more aggressive, much, power on display, speed. I think Yan Xiaonan is unfortunately kind of being tossed into a position that she maybe doesn't have a talent caliber to contend with at the current time. I think she is someone who, just 2 fights ago was losing to Marina Rodriguez via split decision, and Carla Esparza being knocked out from crucifix, which shows, kind of the inexperience that was, 2, almost 3 years ago. But at 34 years old, that was at 31. It's not like she's 21 to 24, 24 to 27, and there's a ton of growth going on in those years. I'm sure that there is, and that's not to take away from Yan Xiaonan, but I just think Weili Zhang is at a far different point in her career at their relative age. They're both the same age, and Weili Zhang has been fighting for a contender for belts and knocking people out far before Yan Xiaonan had burst onto the scene. And I think there's even an argument to say that Yan Xiaonan hasn't burst onto the scene yet. Surely a competitive fight here would implant her in the top 5 of the division and as a certified contender. But without a real cornerstone win, she did knock out Jessica Andrade, but we're not, thinking that Jessica Andrade is someone who is going to be at the top of the division. We think that she's someone who is a little bit more of a gatekeeper type role. So knocking her out definitely contends her into being that potentially top echelon here. But without that marquee win to challenge for a title, I think it's hard to establish a baseline for her skill set yet with the current level of competition. Whereas Zhang Weili, we just see her going in there and annihilating people. Even the decision win over Amanda Lemos, was just a masterclass for her. So I think she has all the momentum here. Same age, minus 420 Blaze It. It's a hard pick because of the line. But I think she's going to go in there, get it done, probably by finish. I think Yan Xiaonan just a little bit too green when it comes to grappling. She's definitely shored up a lot of areas of MMA, but just not to the well-roundedness of Zhang Weili. So Zhang Weili is going to be the pick here to get it done.
Yeah, I totally agree. Love the pick. Don't love the line, though. I wish it was a little bit more profitable. Now, for the main event, we were talking about it a little bit before. I'm pumped about this one. These guys are going to put on a show. I hope it goes a couple of rounds. just because, the action that we're going to bear witness to in this main event. Both these guys do have really good chins. They're both very durable. Sure, Alex got caught by Izzy in that fight, but that was a special punch from Izzy, that overhand coming back off the cage. Jamahal Hill varies up his striking a lot. He's got that good boxing style. I mean, it's going to be like a really great boxing matchup, like kickboxing. Both of these guys throw a lot of great kicks. Jamahal a little bit more to the body. Alex with those leg kicks. Both of these guys really strong with their punches. I mean, it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be awesome. For me, I love Alex Pereira. I think he's going to get the W. That tight left hook, I think he's going to catch Jamahal with that. Jamal's really great, though, man. I mean, you look at his only loss recently in the UFC was to Paul Craig, and that was when his arm got caught and was, it looked like that one Harry Potter movie when Professor Lockhart messed up the spell, and then Harry's arm was like a noodle. I don't know if you remember that one.
I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I wish I could have met you on that metaphor, on that reference, but as soon as you started saying Harry Potter, I was like, damn, I'm not going to have the knowledge to back him up here.
So someone in the chat knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, other than that, Jamahal Hill, really good, but I think Alex Pereira is just a step above. And there was a time, like maybe a year or two ago, and we were like, there's really no star power in the light heavyweight division. And now we have these stars, Alex, Jamahal, Jiří. Jan Blachowicz is like developing into a personality. I mean, he's like grown into his own in that way. Now that Glover's gone, that's sad. But, it's just this light heavyweight division is becoming Paul Craig. It's becoming a lot of fun again. And this is a great matchup. It's a great cap off to UFC 300. And I really hope Alex, because if, like I was talking about Alex's star power before, if he wins in stunning fashion, he really is like one of the faces of the UFC. And you're going to see a lot of people wearing Shama shirts pretty soon. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, this is a good one, man. And I think it does lose a little bit of its gusto for Jamahal Hill when he takes Glover Teixeira at 40 years old to a unanimous decision, but he did beat the crap out of Glover. It was a masterclass that, Glover couldn't take him down and he was piecing him up. And it was funny that at that time, Poatan, they had that passing in the octagon and Poatan looked at him obviously stone-faced as always. And now they meet again. I think that the story for Poatan just going in and writing what, would be wrongs to him, whether that be with Izzy, getting the win and mocking his son and then going back and seeing him in the bar and being like, I fought that guy one day, turning that around on Izzy and getting those wins inside the UFC, like you like to reference Madison Square Garden and all the fame that came now. If he's able to turn that around, to Jamahal Hill and be like, you beat Glover after taking the belt from Jiří, right? So he's just on this kind of like revenge path. And this would just be another infinity stone to add to the gauntlet for him. So I think it's definitely possible because Jamahal Hill does walk in with those hands low and he does shoot from awkward angles, but he does have so much power if he's able to land. And Pereira is a guy that it's not like he doesn't get landed on. He does get landed on. He has good distance management, so a lot of times he's able to get out of the way, but he does get landed on. He does get hit. And you look back at some of his fights, he obviously got hit by Israel Adesanya when he was put out. He wasn't hit by Sean Strickland. He did have a couple shots landed by Jan, back and forth. And, again, I don't think Jiří landed one too hard on him to stagger him, but it's not like these fights are, Khamzat Chimaev first four level where he's getting 0 shots landed on him. He absolutely can. And with the power that Jamahal Hill has put on display, he could potentially put out Poatan. And we're looking at Bruno Silva, fought him to a decision. A guy who, not a very great trajectory post-fight for Bruno Silva, but he did have that strong, stand-up background. A lot of these guys, Israel did too. Sean Strickland knocked him down when he had his hands down low. So that kind of sways me into the Poatan area of against guys who keep their hands low and have not a very technically proficient style. He knocks him out. And then there's Jan Blachowicz, who just has an amazing chin. So I could go both ways. Jamahal Hill, has he been knocked out yet? One loss via knockout, and that was TKO to Paul Craig because his arm popped out. this is a tight one because I never said I would bet on something to happen when it hasn't happened yet. I don't know which way to go because I could see two futures. I can see two futures where Potan is in there, and because Jamahal Hill's hands are so low, and because Potan also kind of keeps them low too. So it's two guys that are just standing there waiting to be hit, firing from awkward angles. Jamahal Hill doesn't get credit for being a very technically sound or intelligent fighter, but his fight IQ to kind of know what to expect from Glover and be able to land on him consistently, expect Thiago Santos and Johnny Walker these wins. Also the caliber of competition of his wins don't necessarily hold up to Pereira. So that's another thing to think about. I'm going with Pereira. Although it was challenging. I think plus 125, minus 150 is a fair line. It could maybe even be a little bit tighter because Jamahal Hill has been, both of these guys have been pretty active, although Jamahal Hill's been out for about a year. So, he's been out for a year, coming off surgery because of the injury. He's going to – this is a really, really good main card fight. It's a really good main card fight. And I think Potan, even though he has the name recognition from hardcore fans, I don't think he has the name recognition or value from regular fans. So putting him up at the top here, it's going to boost one of these two guys. I'm tempted to take Jamahal Hill for the plus money, but I think Pereira is going to win. And fundamentally, I have a problem with picking against what I think is going to happen. So I think Pereira is going to win. I think he's going to be, landing hard shots. Jamahal Hill's hands are low. But at the same time, I have a gut feeling Jamahal Hill is going to get it done. So I'm going Jamahal Hill.
Yeah, part of me does too. Part of me kind of feels Jamahal Hill in this fight.
People are writing him off. He's very confident. He's been there before. I was just saying how I don't give him enough credit for like the tape study and the fight IQ that he has, knowing what guys are going to do and exploiting weaknesses. It's a very similar argument that you had about Justin Gaethje, where it's like, they seem like they're almost just brutish, but when you go back and you listen to some of the interviews these guys have about their philosophy behind the technique and why they're throwing particular things and where that IQ and that setup comes from, Jamahal Hill's got some really, really interesting fight IQ and strategy. So, I think Pereira potentially could, maybe, I don't want to say he's going to underestimate him because he does kind of look less technically sound. And obviously Pereira is the guy who's so decorated in stand-up. Going into a stand-up battle, you have to expect you're going to have that edge. But I'm just not sure he's going to have as much of an edge as he thinks he is. And because of that, it might shock him a little bit. And Jamahal Hill is not a guy who has, power that allows you to be shocked by it. Because if you're shocked by the power, you're already going to be stunned and you don't know what can happen after that. I'm going Jamahal Hill plus money. I think he's being a little bit underrated potentially. And I think we need to really consider him better than he is. He doesn't have the competition level to show it, but I think after Saturday, he might.
Yeah, I'm kind of. This is a tough one, but I'm going with Alex. I'm too big of an Alex fan to not align with like that for this fight. Because it's too tight, and that's really the only thing that's making or breaking it for me is who I want to see win more. Right. All right, you want to put a bow on it? Do this pick rundown.
Let's do it.
All right, starting all the way at the bottom, I'm going with Davison Figueiredo over Cody Garbrandt, Jim Miller over Bobby Green, Jessica Andrade over Marina Rodriguez, Jalin Turner over Renato Moicano, Diego Lopes over Sodiq Yusuff, Holly Holm over Kayla Harrison, Aljamain Sterling over Calvin Kattar, Jiří Procházka over Alexander Rakić. For the main card, Bo Nickal over Cody Brundage.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Charles Oliveira over Armen Tsarukyan. Justin Gaethje over Max Holloway. It's a tough one. Tough one. I am going to go with Justin Gaethje over Max Holloway there. Although we got to keep in mind, if Justin loses, he's probably going to retire. And then we got Weili Zhang. I'm taking her over Xiaonan, and I'm going with Alex Pereira over Jamahal Hill. What do you think, Tom?
I think it's hilarious that they have Justin Gaethje as the defending BMF title holder. That being said, Davison Figueiredo over Cody Garbrandt via finish to get the card started off the right way. Give me Bobby Green over Jim Miller. Hell, Jim Miller's old, so is Bobby Green. I like Bobby Green's stand-up. Is his chin going to hold up? I vote yes. We'll see. Give me Jessica Andrade over Marina Rodriguez. Jalen Turner over Renato Moicano. Diego Lopes over Sodiq Yusuff. Holly Holm over Kayla Harrison by decision. Calvin Kattar over Aljamain Sterling by decision. Jiří Procházka over Alexander Rakić by finish. Bo Nickal over Cody Brundage by first round finish. Charles Oliveira over Armen Tsarukyan via second round finish, maybe third round. Justin Gaethje is going to lose to Max Holloway by decision. I think accumulation of damage and scorecard is going to be in Max's favor. Weili Zhang over Xiaonan probably in the second round, probably by finish is what I'm going to go for there. And Jamahal Hill, Alex Pereira. I think Alex Pereira gets knocked out again, unfortunately. It's the only way I see Jamahal Hill winning, but for something about my gut is just telling me to go with Jamahal Hill, so I'm going to do it. Fuck it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to join me once again for Pickin' Fights. I want to thank everybody at home for watching. Just want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. Please follow us on X and Instagram @_Pickin' Winners, as well as @PickinFightsTom and @PickinKeith on X. You can also listen to us on Spotify. You can check out the video, the audio there. And next time, jump in the chat. There are a few here with us. Comment. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you think of our picks. Let us know while we're live and we can respond to you. Other than that, turn on notifications so that you can see when we go live. And you got anything else for us, Tom?
No, I can't wait for this card, man. It's probably the first time that we've done a bottom to top breakdown of a card. And we try to only break down the fights that we're most interested in. And give picks for the ones that we feel a good way about. This is the first time that there's 13 fights, and we talked about all 13. So props to UFC 300. I think they ultimately pulled out a fantastic card, potentially the best of all time. The only thing that could have made it better was, a Conor McGregor or John Jones, a marquee fight at the top of the card. But either way, I'm stoked. Can't wait to watch it. Already bought my pay-per-view, got that $10 off. So, not dealing with any issues or crackdowns. So can't wait for next weekend.
All right, great. Can't wait to talk about it with you. Later.
Yes, sir.